So this is week 10, and we will be talking about output determination and unemployment. That will be our topic today. So the first thing we'll talk here about Keynesian income expenditure model. That's what we'll talk first. So it said that using the expenditure method, GDP consists of four major expenditure, which is this four of them. Actually, it shows you five, but why did they say four? Four because of X and M. These two are known as an X, which is called net export. That's why. Okay. So we say here there are three different ways we can actually calculate GDP. I have explained these things in previous class, like that it will be actually how much is your national income. It should be in aggregate expenditure method and aggregate demand method. Okay. So, and we say that it will be equal to C plus I plus G plus NX. NX means net income, which is net export, which is calculated as X minus M. Okay, that's why we call it like four models. We're saying it here. Okay. So we call the static model as the price level. In this model, which actually the price level is fixed. The price is not changeable here. The price is actually fixed in here. And we say that GDP, the real GDP of a country, it will increase if the expenditure increases. What are the real expenditures are? Consumption is one of the expenditure. Consumption is one of the expenditures. Investment is another expenditure. Then it's called about government expense is another expenditure. Export is another expenditure. Import is not, but also that's also another expenditure, but export may not be the expenditure here. Okay, so these are the different type of expenditures we are making in here. So first one is consumption. What is consumption? They're talking about consumption. So household consumption is determined by disposable income. It is by wealth, expected future income, financial system, and consumptions. So the most of the people, the highest expenditure of any economic model is the public consumptions in here. Okay, that is the public consumptions. General people, what they make, the everyday expenses that we make, this is known as the public consumption, which is the number one, the biggest expenditure of any economic model. So now this economic model here, next one is about the investment. Okay, what is investment? Investment is the private business, what they are purchasing as an property, plant, equipment, their motor vehicles, their any other assets they actually invest in as any other assets they actually purchase as an investment for the business. That's how they mean by investment. Okay, and the next one is about the government expenditure, the government expenses. You're talking in here. You're talking about government expenses. So what are the government is spending out? Like we had a budget like a days ago. We had a budget by the treasurer, and they said that how much they're gonna spend out for the economy. That's the government budget, government expenses you call it. The government actually made a budget to spend out money on making roads, bridges, culverts, other expenses that we include. This is come as government expenditure. But one thing remember, the social security money, the Centrelink money is not part of government expenditure. Okay, this is not a part of government expenditure. Why? It is not part of government expenditure because these things does not come as a productive instrument. That's why they call it. It's not a government expenditure. This doesn't produce anything. Okay, it's not actually coming up as or increasing any value into the market. That's why. Then they're talking about export. The more export you have, the more money the government has, the more money coming into the economy from the foreign countries. Import is not good. Import meaning that you are actually giving the money to other countries. That's not a good thing to do actually. Now, let's talk about consumption and expenditure. In this case, we are going to actually create a model. What are we going to create a model? We're going to create a model of consumption and savings model we're going to create here. So let's say Y is our gross income. Our gross income is known as Y. So what will be your disposable income? Okay, whatever you earning from there, you have to subtract the taxes. Okay, let's say you earn $1,000. From $1,000, you are actually paying government, let's say $100 as a tax. So $900 will be left for you to spend out the money as the way you want. This money is known as disposable income. So income minus tax is your disposable income. Okay. Now, how do you decide how much is your tax? So tax, this you see that this tax, capital T, that's the amount of tax. And you see the small t, that is actually rate of tax. So marginal rate of taxation, which means our Australian government rate of taxation we mean here. So which is this? I can show you here individual tax rate. Individual tax rate 2021, for example. So you can see this tax rate we have. Okay. So this is this one we call marginal tax rate. Okay. Am I actually sharing the screen or no?
You are sharing
Okay,
that.
okay, all right. I don't see a border, that's why I'm not very sure if I was sharing or not. Okay. So the small letter t is actually a marginal tax rate. And you see the capital T, which means which is your amount of tax. So how do they mean by these things here? You can see it here. Like I can actually draw these things in here as well. Give me a second. It's better to actually draw these things. Let me write it down. That would be better. But it's going to actually cost me a lot of time. But I'll try my best to do it as quick as possible. You say here that y is equal to y minus tax. Okay. So this is certain. This is an equation. Okay. Y minus tax. And this one is, let's say, we can say this one as disposable income. So let's say this is D. Really gross income minus tax. Okay. So you're saying here that is equal to tax is equal to saying Y minus T. That's our tax. Now we're trying to establish here that what is T here. Okay. Now you're saying here what is T. Okay, you can say here y is equal to T, then you're saying y minus tax. So tax is here, we are saying here that T plus will be our small t into capital Y. So what is this capital T here? Now we're trying to say this one. Remember, how do we calculate tax? We calculate tax a small amount, an amount, mandatory amount, plus the rate of tax into your how much you earn. Remember? That's how we calculate our tax. We say that. So your income, how do you calculate tax? So tax is calculated as, let's say your tax is $200, and $200 will be your tax if you are, I think I should show you from this website in here. So yeah, you see this 5,092 plus 32.5% of excess over the 45, like this. So this is your T0 plus 32.5, that is tax rate, small t, multiplied by other income, these ones. Okay. So these things we are calculating in here. Okay. So now we are going to talk about what do we do with our disposable income. So you can say these things. You can say that is equal to, so y d. Okay, that's what you can see here. The tax minus yt. That's the same t0 plus ty. Okay, here ty is our rate of. We can say here in here that small t is rate of tax. Small t is rate of tax. Okay. Tax here. Okay. So now in this one, we're going to actually find out our consumption rate. Okay, how do we actually we are going to derive here the consumption model. Okay, so we say that what do we do with our disposable income in this case? Our disposable income is YD, right? This is our disposable income. This money will be used as our consumption. That way we want to spend, that way we're going to spend, and we'll be also making some savings out of this amount. So you see, your total income, gross income, then you pay the tax, that's the rest of the amount is your YD. Okay, so YD. What do you do after YD? From YD, so YD, okay, from this YD, what are you gonna do? We are going to consumption plus we are also making some savings. Two things we are working on here. Okay, consumption is our C. This thing is our C, consumption, and savings. Savings is actually our S. That's what we are trying to say here. Okay, so we are actually, our disposable income is used in two ways. We consume some money and we also save some money into the bank. Okay, that's two ways we are actually using this money. Okay, now we are going to show you that how do we actually determine our consumption in this case. Okay, so now we're going to say here that consumption is actually, let's say here, consumption C is equal to C0 plus marginal propensity to consume into Y. So what is this C here? Okay, here equation. This one will be equal to, we call this C0. Okay, this C0, and here is our CY, C into Y, small c. So look, two type of C I'm using here, one capital C and the small c. Now, I'm going to actually explain you what are these C's are actually, okay? So say here, C0, which is known as autonomous consumption. C0 is equal to autonomous consumption. What is autonomous consumption? Autonomous consumption means that you will have some expenses. For example, you are a human being, you must going to buy some food to eat. So that will be definitely, you will have some consumption. You will consume something for sure. Okay. And what is our small c? This one is called marginal propensity to consume. And small c is equal to marginal propensity to consume. Marginal propensity to consume, that is actually known as your C. What does that mean, marginal propensity to consume? It means that what is your tendency to consume? What part, how much, what percentage of your income you consume and what percentage you save? That's what they mean by marginal propensity to consume. Let's say out of your income, 20% you save, 80% you consume. So your MPC is 80%. Again, you're coming here as a percentage. Okay? That's marginal propensity to consume. So we call this one as, you can say this has a name, it's like MPC, it has a name, marginal propensity to consume. Okay? All right. So now, say here, now next one is about when disposable income will be increasing, it means YD will be increasing, saving will be decreasing. That's very simple point in here. Okay. And when your disposable income will be increasing, also your marginal propensity to consume, if there is a rate in there, you will see that your consumption will also increase. That's very normal. Your consumption will be also increasing. When your income will increase, disposable income will increase, it means that your consumption will be also increasing too. Okay, but it will be increasing less than the increase in income because you are actually saving a portion from there. Okay, you'll be actually saving a portion from there. So how do you make the savings? Let's go into talk about saving. Savings is equal to S is equal to, for example, marginal propensity to a disposable income minus the consumption. That's what is your savings. Insert the equation. So here, your savings is equal to your disposable income. Okay. Minus is your consumption. Okay. Total consumption. This one, C. Total consumption is actually consists of C0 plus CY. So you can say here this one is equal to, you can say here, YD minus, you can say here, this one C0 plus CY. Now you can say not CY, you can say CYD actually. That would be the proper way to write CY So we can say these things as this way. If you organize these things as this, we can say, look at, see, YD here. I want to bring these YDs together. Okay, so you can say here that minus C0 minus C0, okay, plus YD plus CYD. Okay, and this one we can say this way. Minus C0 plus minus C0 plus, if we take the YD as common, YD as common, we will get here 1 plus C, small c. Okay. Yes.
Sorry, what does the Y stand for, sir?
Y is the income.
Alrighty, thank you.
Y is your gross income. I should write it down on top. I should write it down. Top here. Y is equal to your gross income. Y is your gross income. Equation. That's your gross income. Y is your gross income. Okay. YD is disposable income. Disposable income, YD. No. Here. YD disposable income. Okay. T is your tax rate, and T0 is the tax amount. T0 is your minimum tax, you can say, or and why, and you understand these things. So C is autonomous consumption, and C is money principle. Yeah, now it's, I think it's better to look at. And S is savings, already mentioned here. S is equal to savings. Okay. So now you see these things in here. Okay. So if you say this way, I think I made a mistake in here. This should not be positive. This should be actually negative minus. This should be here actually minus sign. Okay. This should be 0. Okay, this should be minus here. You see, because YD is plus minus C0, it should be minus CYD. Yes. Okay, now it's okay. Now you see here 1 minus C, this one, you see that? 1 minus C, this is your marginal propensity to save. This will be known as MPS. Okay, you can say here 1 minus C is equal to MPS, which is marginal propensity to save. Here, 1 minus C This one is actually your MPS. MPS, which means marginal propensity to save, MPS. Okay. And another interesting thing you'll see here, it will call that MPC plus MPS should be equal to 1. This is a percentage. Okay, these things are percentage. So when you say that you have 20% is your MPC, as MPS savings, a marginal propensity to save, then 80% is the marginal propensity to consume. Okay, that's why we say MPC plus MPS is equal to 1. Okay, I think I should make these things all coming from this way. Yes. It will be easier to understand from this point of view. Seriously. That's the problem with working with equations. Everything is very weird here. It doesn't work like normal world. Okay. So 2 sections in here. This one I can say another section. And this one I can say another section. There's 3 sections in here. Okay. Okay. So we actually try to make out here we try to make 3 different models in here. First model, we try to say here that how do we actually define our disposable income, which is consumption plus savings. The disposable income also you find out that gross income can be said. You can say here that gross income is equal to, you can say, tax plus consumption plus savings. All together is gross income. One portion is going to the tax, another portion of your savings, and the rest of the money you are consuming. So 3 things: tax, then it's about your savings and your consumption. 3 things together is your gross income. Okay. And how do you define your consumption? That's we try to understand here. The consumption is actually calculated as autonomous consumption plus marginal propensity to consume multiplied by the money that you have, which is a disposable income. Okay. This is the thing. This thing is known as your consumption and savings model. We call that. Okay. Now, they try to show you here relationship between income and consumption. Relationship between income and consumption. What is the rule we say? The rule is that if your income increases, your consumption will be increasing. There is a positive relationship. Okay, if your income increases, there will be a consumption will be increasing too. And in this case here, you can see C0. You see C0, autonomous consumption. This is known as autonomous consumptions. Okay, so you see they started from here. At this point they started. They did not start from 0. Why not? Because consumption cannot be 0. If you have 0 income, still you have some consumption. If you have 0 income, still you have some consumption. You are consuming something at 0 income too. Okay, that's how they mean here. The consumption will start from this point. And what is this much? This much is your autonomous consumption. Okay, maybe I can take some annotations so you can see it better. Not the mouse and spotlight, that's better. Yeah, now you can see that it starts from this point. So this much is your autonomous consumption, C0. Okay, now if I say, if our income is Y0, our income is Y0, okay, so this is our income, Y0. How much autonomous consumption? The autonomous consumption will be this much, C0. If our income is 0, Autonomous consumption is this much. Okay. Income increases, autonomous consumption also increases in here. Okay. And on top of this, we have the rest. So C is equal to A plus CY. So A is autonomous consumption, plus C is marginal propensity to consume, and Y is YD, disposable income. Okay. But now you can ask me a question. So does this income mean disposable income? No, it's not. It's actually gross income we are showing here. But we have a relationship that if your income increases, disposable income will also increase because tax remains the same. Next. Okay. All right, savings function. Now, when you talk about savings function, is so this is our income model here, income and consumption relationship here, and the next one is our next is showing you here income and savings model. Income and savings model. Okay, so you see, so this is your zero income is in here. This one we understand very well, right? This is red line is your consumption line. Okay. Here they try to show you in the middle point, they try to show you. Okay, that's actually the midpoint, 45-degree angle. Okay, so we're saying here that our savings and this savings. Okay, so let's say our income is in Y, that's our income. Okay, and our consumption is also at this point, consumption is this much. So if we say that, look at here, another interesting thing here, A minus BY. Okay, A minus B, how do they mean by A minus BY? Income is equal to consumption, there is no savings at this point. Your income is equal to your consumption. That time you do not have any savings. The savings is equal to zero at this point. Whatever you are earning, you're spending all the money. When your income is more than your consumption, that's when you actually make the savings. And the slope, here the slope, this slope is this 45-degree angle. You can see this one is much more flatter. Okay. The slope is your marginal propensity to consume. That's your slope. What is the percentage of your consumption or percentage of your savings? That's what is the slope. And the slope of the saving function is the marginal propensity to save. So this is your saving function. This green line is your saving function, but the red one is your consumption function. Don't forget that. Then the red one is consumption function, but this one, the green one, is your savings function. Okay. And saving function, autonomous consumption is minor because there is no income, no expenses. Okay, the saying actually starting actually from the bottom. So that's why your savings will become at this 0 point. You will see that your income is, when your income is zero, autonomous consumption is also zero because you're starting at minus A. Okay. So this much is called this savings. This saving means you are actually spending more than your income. You are in debt. That's how they call it this savings. Okay, in this case, in here, this will be this savings. You are earning actually less than your income. So less than your consumption. That's what this called this savings. When you will be starting that your expense, your earnings here, this one, this line is the earnings line, showing earnings, Y income, which is actually more than your consumption. That's why you can see from this point, you can see this point is a blue line, the midpoint one, this one is your income. Then you can see your expenditure is more. At this point, even you see expense is higher than your income. At this point, you see that expenditure is equal to your consumption. There is no savings, zero savings. But when you go more income, at this point, okay, you can see your income is higher than your consumption. You have some savings. So that's why they say this this one as your savings zone. This is your savings zone. And these things this savings, or you can say debt. Okay. Any question for me so far, guys? Any questions for me?
No.
No. Okay. Cool. Next, we'll talk about investment. What the investment refers to? Investment is one of the major component of GDP. Investment expenditure is the autonomous, independent of income level. Okay. So investment is determined by the profit expectations. If expected profit is greater than the expected cost, there is stimulate the investment. How do they mean by this? So when there is some profit, then only the business thing I can, like I told you, I explained to you before what is investment. Investment is when a business will spend some money to buy new materials, like new machineries, new property, new plant, new equipment, new motor vehicle. These things are the private businesses expenditure. And we take it as an investment for the business. Whoever, any of you have done accounting in your previous classes or any other course of the accounting, you know there is one section called cash flow statement. Then the cash flow statement, there is one of them is called the net cash flow from investment activities. In the investment activities, remember what do we do in there? Investment activities are those activities when the business spend money to buy something. By what things? By fixed assets. That's what is the investment activities we call that. So like machineries they purchase, land they purchase, that's an investment. Or even the company is purchasing some share of another companies. Yes, that is also investment too. So, and this investment will be coming up when there is some profit in the business. So that's why they say investment is determined by the profit expectations. The profit is increasing, then the expected profit is greater than the expected cost, that will stimulate some investment. However, cost of investment, interest rate, and availability of fund for investment is also important determining the investment. Also, another thing is important, interest rate, and also the availability of fund. If there is some fund available into the bank, they can go and borrow these things money from the bank. Okay, and this says here, the investment will be equal to I0 plus HI. Okay, what is this H? Okay, let's go in here. Here is your investment I, so the minimum investment they will make. Okay, and here I is equal to, like this. So this is the rate of interest, I believe they mean here, rate of interest. Okay, multiplied should be how much fund they are actually taking from the banks. Okay. Another one coming here is at the government expenditure. Government expenditure, government expenses. Government expenditure independent of national income. It is a policy variable, so it depends on the government policy, what the policy government is taking, depends on that. So it's nothing to do with anything, it's just C equal to Z0, nothing else is involved here. Export, the relationship export equal to export, there is nothing much in here. There is no rate, nothing is dependent on this thing. Like here you see that it depends on the available fund and also the rate of interest. So you multiply with this thing, how much the available fund. But in this case here, the government expenditure do not depend on anything. It's just a policy. Government will say, I'm going to actually spend this much money on this project, this much money on this project. The government's point of view is nothing to, there is nothing, no other variable involved in here. Export is the same. In the other countries, they actually buy our goods. That's why we know that we will have these things, but it depends. See, so X equal to X. And it depends on foreign countries' income. So it depends on foreign countries how much they are earning. So we have no control on that one. It depends on exchange rate as well, but it do not depend on the domestic income. Okay, so export is nothing to do with how much we earn within our country. It depends on the income of the other country who will be buying our goods. If their income is high, they will buy our goods more. Next is our import. Import is this one here. You see, import is this. Minimum import we're gonna make autonomous import. When every country, why we will have autonomous import? We will have autonomous import because no country in the world is self-dependent. They have to be dependent on other countries for some purpose, for some reasons. Okay, they must have to be dependent on other countries. Okay, Australia is depending on consumer goods in China. China actually export a lot of consumer goods to Australia. Australia is importing those goods. Plus MY, M means marginal propensity to import. See, M is a marginal propensity to import, MPM, multiplied by on your income. Okay, also import depends on the GDP, national income, depends on the exchange rate as well. But this is our main function of import. Okay, M is equal to M0 plus MY. So now we are going to actually determine about our aggregate expenditure. How do they determine? Look, GDP will be equal to aggregate expenditure equal to C plus I plus G plus X minus M. X minus M, this one is known as NX. That's what we mean. 4 components you say, but 5 components, but we say 4 because X and M we combine together and say this is NX. In this case here, C, we have already calculated C equal to consumption is equal to C0 plus C into 1 plus T0 minus Ti into YT. This is calculated already in the past. Here, this one. YD, remember that? YD will be equal to YD will be equal to Y minus T0 into Ty. Okay. So that's how they put in here all together. YD is in here. Okay. Plus investment I0, government expenditure, nothing to do, expenditure, nothing to do. And M is equal to M plus MY. Okay. So it's about the C you have to understand. That's all. Other remains the same. And M, you know it. M equal to M plus MY. So M is autonomous import plus marginal propensity to import. Okay. What you're doing next? So this one is C0 plus I0 plus G0 X0 M. And look at this part. We are actually trying to bring all those Y's together. You see our Y, we're going to bring it together. Now that's why we're actually bringing them up closer to each other. C1, see? But it will be multiplied with T0. Okay. And this says here, now we are actually taking these things, taking the Y as common. It will be C1 minus T into this one because this is plus here. Okay. This one actually they should put a bracket in here. Okay. Yes. Anyway, so you can see here is plus here, so that becomes is minus in here. My is in here, so this becomes here is minus. Okay. So anyway, this is the formula that we actually come up. Yes. And in the equilibrium income, Y is equal to aggregate expenditure, Y is equal to AE. So this says here, aggregate expenditure here, Y is equal to A0, like AE is equal to the whole figure in here. Okay. Now you can ask me questions that what is this A0? A0 is actually from here to here is A0. Okay, C plus I plus G plus X minus M minus CT. See, this whole thing is your A0. Now you can see here C plus I plus G plus X minus M. So this much is also your A. What is this A? That's your income, but at minimum consumption. autonomous income is in there. That's why you can say autonomous income. Okay, A0. Now we say here that this AE is equal to A0 into plus C into 1 minus T minus M multiplied by Y. How can you solve for Y? So yes, that's how they get it, the figure. So A0, solve for Y. So they actually Y minus these ones, they bring you on the other side, changing the side, these ones. They're taking again Y as common, 1 minus C, these things, Y equal to A0. So Y will be equal to A0 divided by 1 minus C into 1 minus T plus M into Y. So how do they mean by this? They try to mean here that equilibrium expenditure is the level of AE that occurs at AY is equal to real GDP. Okay. But in your exam, I do not think you have any much in exam for here, but it's a good idea to actually learn this one. Okay, how do they actually calculate these figures? These two. How much you have the autonomous income of any country? That's what is here, A0, autonomous income of any country. Okay, in Australia, we are showing you here the components of GDP in 2014 and 15 in that year. How much is our GDP in Australia? So you can see here, gross national expenditure, export of goods, services, import, export and import X minus M. Okay, that's the discrepancies. Those the changes in inventories, domestic and final demand, all sector GDP, fixed capital information. So these are the various figures. I would say that if they would have shown, okay, here they did, gross domestic product is in here. So we had actually $399 billion. Okay, $4 billion, 403.20, 401, 403. So it was increasing 14, 15 time it was increasing actually. Yeah. Now we have actually 1.6 billion in 1 year. That's right. Australia has 1.6 billion. Yeah. Okay. Here they showed you household final consumption, 55%. General government expenditure, 17%. All sectors final composition, 73%. Goods fixed capital, export of goods is 22%. Import is 20%. Okay. They did not show you the investment actually much. But remember this thing: the consumption is the highest, the biggest number in our whole real GDP. Consumption is the number one. Okay, now let's talk about aggregate expenditure. This is a very interesting one in here. So you can see this one is I, and this is I plus G. So it means the gap between these two, blue and green, this much is G. And from 0 to this I, this much is your I, this much is your G, this much is your X, export. Okay, so the orange one is actually your I plus G plus X. Okay, so green one is I, and this gap, this one is G, and this one is your X, and this orange line is I plus G plus X. Now, this is not the problem. The problem comes up when you add up C. Okay, C starts from here. C starts on top of the C stars. Okay, that's the way of calculating. That's the way of calculating or drawing a diagram. When you add up something, it goes on the top. Okay, consumption starts from here. So in this one, autonomous consumption already embedded in here. Okay, and you can see here. So these would be our C, to be honest. This would be our C. But because there is import involved, import will push a little bit down. So this will be our AE, C plus I plus G plus X minus M. So this much is your import. So this is your C actually. You can say this one is your C. But since it's added up, because it started from at the top of this, so this is your I plus G plus X plus C. So you can say from here to here, the whole thing is your C, consumption expenditure, the whole thing. And this much is your I actually pushed it down. So import is not a good thing for any country. Okay, import is not good. All right. For theoretic line of GDP. So this is your 40-degree line, that is which is actually your Y is equal to A is an income. Okay, that's your income. And this is a real GDP. This side is showing a real GDP, and these are showing with the real aggregate expenditures. Okay, if it happens that, okay, aggregate expenditure is higher, okay, then your GDP, it means that there have some inventories involved. Okay, what is inventories means? The stock of goods. Okay, the stock of goods in there. The inventories are the stock of goods in there. And if you see here, this one we already explained. It's already been explained in here. Okay. So this says here, GDP will be, if your real GDP increases, GDP rises. Okay, and this side GDP, this side GDP drops. So if you see that your inventory is high, and AE inventory is going to high, there are lots of goods, stock of goods, that means your GDP will be increasing. So they mean here, if AE, aggregate expenditure, is high, inventories increases. It means when people will be like, you'll see a lot of countries like, we have seen these things in our, in coronavirus in Australia as well. Since Australia had lots of stock of goods, the GDP was high, the stock of goods was there. There was no problem when the country was in crisis. But if they did not have a higher GDP, they had the low GDP, and then they would not have much stock. So and now if you think about a micro level, that when the country is in a peak, a country has a good business environment, that different firms, they knows that how much will be their demand of their goods within the market. So they will produce the goods as an inventory and keep it in their stocks. Okay, so the more stocks you will have, the more real GDP you will have. That's the whole point. Okay, now this is very interesting. What is multiplier? Okay, multiplier has some effect. What a multiplier is, let's put it this way. For example, let's say when there is income of $100, $100 is the money to circulating within the economy. So when you will have that $100 in your pocket, you earning $100. Your earning is actually other person's expenditure. Again, your expenditure will be other person's income. How? For example, you earn $100. Now you're taking this $100 to the market. What are you going to do? You're going to save $20 and spend $80. See, the money you're spending, this $80, that becomes the income for another person. You went to shop, grocery store, or Woolworth or Kohl's, so you spend $80. This $80 is the income for another person. He is again saved that from $80, he's going to again save, let's say, $15 he's going to save. Another $65 he's going to spend again. So now look at this $100 bill. It's not $100. It has impact of more than $100. This is called multiplier. Okay. So when the money is circulated, the more money circulates, the more effect it will have within the economy. So that's why when the government feels that the country is in crisis, people are not spending money, government give the stimulus package. Take this money and go and spend. Like a couple of days ago, the NSW government has given us $100 for nothing. Take this $100 and spend it in the market. Okay, take this money and spend it like this. what did they say here? The magnitude of the increase in the income that results from an increase in autonomous expenditure is determined by the multiplier. Okay, the multiplier is changes income divided by changes in autonomous income. Autonomous expenditure or income expenditure is the same thing here. The changes in equilibrium income divided by changes in autonomous expenditures. The formula for expenditure multiplier is 1 divided by 1 minus slope of AE function. Now this says explained in here. How does multiplier work? Imagine you are given an extra $100. What would you do? You spend $80, save 20. What will do $80? $80 is spend $60 and save 20. That's why it just keeps on going. So the overall increase in expenditure is more than original $100 that was given to you. This is multiplier effect. This is correct. Okay. A $50 billion increase in investment is multiplied by 200 billion increase in GDP. See that? So when the government gives you $2 billion injected as a stimulus package, it will have like let's say 10, 15, 20 billion dollars of impact. Okay. So the multiplier is equal to changes in GDP divided by changes in aggregate expenditure. Okay. If there are no import, MPM is equal to 0 and no taxes, the multiplier is 1 divided by 1 minus MPC. So that's the formula actually. So multiplier will be equal to 1 divided by 1 minus MPC. What is MPC? Marginal propensity to consume. If the MPC is 0.7, the multiplier is 1 divided by 1 minus 7, 1.7, which is 4 times. See that? It have impact of 4 times. If marginal propensity to consume is 0.75, it means marginal propensity to save is 0.25. See, 4 times it will be. Okay. Withdrawal lowers the size of the multiplier. This is if the marginal propensity to import and the tendency to tax is 0.25. Okay. Tendency to tax, which means tax rate is 25%. Okay. The multiplier will be 2 times. So tax will be reducing these things. Okay. Tax will be reducing these things. So you can see tendency to tax is bad actually. This actually reduces the economic activity. We have seen these things in our the other examples too. When there is tax, both the buyers and seller, both of them have to bear that burden. Equilibrium level of gross domestic product. This is effect on output of a change in injection or withdrawal. Okay. The multiplier effect, this says, okay, if this injection is greater than the withdrawal, GDP will be increasing. Oh, of course, like, so what do they mean by injection actually? Injection means that 3 things we should see here. Okay. Investment, government expenditure, and export. These 3 IGX. These 3 things is known as injection. And let me write it down here so you guys can see it better. In saying it, you may not remember that. Let me write it down. In any economy, what is injection? Injection is equal to I plus G plus X. That's injection. Investment plus government expenditure plus X. X means this one is, let's say, export. And withdrawal is equal to savings plus tax plus import. So this government expenditure is actually, you can say government subsidies, okay? Always remember this one. So how do I know these things? I'll show you. There is a rule for this. Let me show you this. You guys can understand it better. 5 model, 5 sector, economic. The percentage should be 5. 5 sector economic model. Yes, this one. Now let me get the image. I can show you this one better. I think this one looks nice. Okay. This one. Okay, I will copy that image. How did I get these things? Okay, so this is called 5-sector economic model. So what we have learned so far in our previous classes, we learned household sectors and farm sector. Remember, household and the farm. Household is citizens, farms are the business. Who is the citizen? Who is the owner of the resources? Household is the owner of the resources. Okay, that's the economic activities. Now, it did not show very well, to be honest. Let me see if I can see a better one. They should show exactly how the money is getting out. Circular flow, this is okay, but it's still not as the way I would like to see that. All of them showing just this way, but I would prefer something better. Circular flow of income, yes. But nobody's showing it the way I'm looking for. I think I'll be fine with this one. Let's see. Okay. So what happens in this case, look, when the household actually have the income, that when the goods activities like farms pays them the income, wages, rent, interest, and profit. When they pays this, do you think household actually spend all the money consumption? No, they don't. What they do, they save some money. They pay some taxes, and they spend some more money to buy some foreign goods. That's the whole point. That's how the household is actually leaking the money out of the economic flow. That's the whole point. Okay, they're taking the money out of the economic flow. So let's say the household has given their land, labor, and capital to the business. What the business did, in return, business give them some money. What they giving? Wages, rent, interest, profit they're giving to the household. And the farm actually produce, using those resources, they're producing some goods, and they're asking the household to buy those goods. Yes, household buy those goods, but don't think household actually spend all the money. They save some money. When the farm giving them the money, they don't give them all the money back. No, they save some money. They pay some taxes to the government, and again, they also spend some money for holidays. They go to overseas. That's a tourism expenditure they make. They're going to overseas for holidays. These things. That's the way it goes, right? So again, at the same time, look what the household is saving. That money by look now through these savings, taxation and import, the household is actually taking the money out of the circle. Out of the circle, they're taking the money out. This is called withdrawal or leakage. I call that. This is called withdrawal. They're withdrawing the money. So the money is not going back all to the farm. No, some money going to the bank, the saving financial sector. Some money going to the government as tax. Some money also going to the other countries. Okay. Now, interesting part is this: how the farm is bring those leaked money injected into the economy again. So what the farm is saving the money? They're saving their money into the bank, right? So from the bank, again, the bank is investing this money to the farm back. Okay, so that's how what has been leaked out through savings, that's actually coming back to the farm again. Now let's go to the tax. The household actually pays some taxes to the government. Again, the government is actually making some subsidies or government expenditure and going the money back to the farm. The government gives lot of us complain why government gives so much money to the farm, because Farms makes the unemployment. And all the money being leaked out by the citizens, and government is bringing it back and giving it to the government. Government is bringing back and sending it back to the farm. Another thing is that citizens are sending the money to overseas through import. They import the goods, they buy a French wine, the Australian currency is going to France. Again, the Australian government is going to send some beef to France, and they will bring all the money back as an export. They bring all the money back to Australia again. Okay, that's why we say that I bring this part. Injection will be I plus G plus X. Look, IGX, and withdrawal will be STM, savings, tax, and import. And these two must have to be equal to be in equilibrium position of the government, of the GDP. So it says here, if injection is greater than GDP, it means that if the farm actually inject this three, as IGX is injection, this three is injection, okay? That injecting the money back to the circular flow. This is the flow, you see? This circle is the flow. They are bringing it back here, okay? So you see this injection, IGX. If injection is more than the withdrawal, GDP will rise. If injection is less than the withdrawal, it means money gone out of the circle. It means GDP will go down, fall. That's all they mean. Okay? If injection is not J, it should be I. Injection is greater than the withdrawal, GDP will increase. Okay? And withdrawal is increases until I equal to 0. And after that, what happens is this. Now you'll see that you can say, will it be always like it might happen that injection is always higher than the withdrawal in a country? No. At one stage, it will be equilibrium. Okay? Withdrawal will be keep on increasing until injection is equal to withdrawal. Okay? So that's how they mean here. You see? At one stage, they will be like this. They will come at this equilibrium position. Okay, so you can see this is withdrawal, this is injection. It's showing by J. Okay. All right, let's talk about economy-wide model, ADS model. Look at here, it's a very interesting one. This is on the aggregate supply curve, this is demand curve. Very normal. Like normally we have learned in macroeconomics, exactly the same attitude, but we do not call it demand and supply, we call it aggregate demand and aggregate supply. That's what we call it in here. Okay, so here we have aggregate supply is in here and aggregate demand is in here. Okay, now interesting part, you see the another purple color is in here. You have aggregate supply in the long run. This is aggregate supply in the short run. Okay, short run, it means when you have the price increases, your supply increasing. But is it possible you supply unlimited? No. We all have our capacity, how much you can supply more. Okay, how much you can supply more. If someone tells you the more you work, the more money you earn. Now, can you work? Can your body actually work as long as you want? No, there are some limitations. In the same way, a country will have some limitations. They have resources. Resources are limited. Okay. Now, if we say the meat of kangaroo increases, the price of kangaroo meat increases, can you keep on supplying? No, we have limited number of kangaroos. We cannot actually slaughter and sell the meat from them. Not necessarily. No, we don't do that. We have limited numbers in there. And also, let's say beef. So, can you give us 20 billion cattle? We don't have that much. We don't have that much. So that's why we say at one stage, in the long run, aggregate supply is fixed. You cannot supply more than QF at full. QF means full capacity. F, full capacity. Quantity at full capacity. Okay? It means at one stage, you have to stop. That's the maximum capacity Australia has for production. How much uranium do we have in Australia? we have around 1.8 million tons of uranium in Australia. We have 1.8 million tons of uranium in Australia. Now, if someone asks me, uranium price is going high. Yes, we are increasing the supply too. Can we supply more than 1.88 million tons? No, we cannot. So in the long run, our aggregate supply will be fixed. Okay. Whatever the price is, supply cannot go more than that. Okay. Now, last point we'll talk about unemployment. Okay. What is unemployment? When there is like, look, in the population, we have a group of people who are not in the part of labor force. They don't want to work. They're not in the part of labor force. But there are some people who is part of the labor force. They are actually working as a labor. They have the part of the labor force. And within the labor force, if there is someone who is looking for a job for last, I think it's now changed. It was 2 weeks in the past. Now it says 4 weeks. Okay. Who is looking for a job and could not find a job in last 4 weeks. Let me check the definition, correct one. I think it's 2 weeks or 4 weeks. Let me check it. ILO definition of unemployment. Okay, an unemployed person is a person aged 15 or over without a job during a given week, actively having short employment at some time during the last 4 weeks. Yes, that has been changed. Now it was 2 weeks in the past. Now it has been changed 4 weeks. Okay, yes, that's what I needed to confirm. Yes, 4 weeks. It was 2 weeks in the past. Now it's 4 weeks. That's a new definition. So what they did is ILO says that someone who is a part of labor force, it can look, there are people who is, let's say, student, we don't consider them as a labor force. Children, they're not part of labor force. Someone aged over 65, they're not part of labor force. Still some people working over 65, but we consider people will be working within 15, 16, actually now they change a little bit. It was 16 to 65, that is 15 to 65. In this age group, who is willing to work but looking for a work but could not get a work for last 4 weeks, we'll call them unemployed people. If you are not looking for a work, you are not unemployed. So that's why you will see in Centrelink they says that you have to look for work. If you do not look for work, you are not unemployed. We cannot give unemployment benefits. Okay. To be entitled as an unemployed person, you have to looking for that work. Okay. But if you stop looking for the work, we understand you're frustrated, you lost your hope for getting a job, so you decided not to look for a job anymore. You are getting a pension, retired. That's a different story. Okay. So there are some people, let's say someone, he or she, boy or girl, is just finished their education, now waiting to get married, not looking for any job. Yes, they are not unemployed. They are not part of labor force. So unemployment is calculated on the basis of labor force. How many people is unemployed out of the labor force? Okay, that's what we call participation rate. We call that. Okay, let's go in here. Unemployment at full employment, frictional unemployment. This thing we're going to talk in here. Okay, what is frictional unemployment? Frictional unemployment means that you have a specific job skill, but you are not fit for the job you're currently doing. You're looking for something better. This is not frictional unemployment. So you are in a job, currently you are in a job, but you are looking for another job. But in between this search, let's say 2 weeks, 4 weeks, you are unemployed. That's frictional unemployment. Structural unemployment, when the business structure changes. Like recently, you can see here that new things coming up. Robots are coming up. AI is coming up. So a lot of people will be losing their job because robot will be delivering in the restaurants. So waiters, they will lose their job. This is really structural unemployment because of the business structure has changed. Structural unemployment. Another unemployment they call classical unemployment. Classical one is this one, that when the business will always have some ups and downs. Business will always have some ups and downs. How do you mean by ups and downs here? We mean this way, that let's say in winter time, everywhere it is quiet. In summer, it's very busy. So summer is the peak time of the business. Winter is the downtime of the business. When winter time it is down, there will be some unemployment in the country. This is normal. It's always be there. Natural unemployment we call them. Classical unemployment we call them the same thing. Natural unemployment or classical unemployment. So 95% people is employed. We call them full employment. If there is 95% people employed, we call them full employment. Okay. Now we'll talk about unemployment above the full employment rate, deflationary and unemployment above the full employment. Okay, let's check this. Recessionary and inflationary gap. Let's check these things in here. Okay, so this is, you can see this one, long run aggregate supply, not average, aggregate supply is long run aggregate supply. Okay, so the price level. So this at the highest capacity, when the economy is at the full capacity, okay, the price is very high. That time you will see, because there is a recessionary gap, the price will fall down. Okay, so you can see here at the full capacity is in here. Okay, that's the full capacity. Okay, so the country is at the full, so all the people are being working, everybody is working, all the farms are working 24/7. They're working like this, at the full capacity. They're working using all the resources of the country. At the full capacity they're working. Okay, the time the price is level is this much. Okay, and you will see then what happens, that there will be this accelerator theory, we call these things actually in here. Okay, and you will see at one stage that there will be some, how do I say these things, is there is a fluctuation in their stocks. You can say these things, there is a fluctuation in the stocks, like there is instability in their investment. Okay, when you utilize the whole capacity, you cannot use it and you don't have anything left to use it later on. At that situation, you will see that your supply will be actually reduced. So demand will be actually be reduced. Okay, that happens, and that's called recessionary gaps. We call these things here. Okay. Again, at the same time, you see if there is a possibility that people is a full capacity, but they find some other source of raw materials, natural resources, they can import from other countries or something, it will increase too. It might even go inside. Okay, these are inflationary gap, we call these things in here. That the prices has increased. Okay, so they're actually producing at this level, full capacity they're producing in here. But at the same time, there is a price hike because they found some other things, some other resources or new resources in that case, and there will be some inflationary gap will be created. So you see that your income will be increasing too, or over your full capacities because of the inflationary gap. It's called inflationary gap. Okay. Why there are booms and recessions? That's what we're trying to say here. Instability of investment, the accelerator theory, the rate of change in GDP. The change in the rate of GDP is also important here. At what change you are going, like when there is a rule called rule of 70s. We call that. There is something called rule of 70s. Let's say a country is growing at 70% rate. So in 10 years' time, it will be doubling its production rate. Let's say now a country is producing $1 trillion of real GDP. Okay, they put $1 trillion of real GDP, and they're growing at 7%. So that's what we call rule of 70. So 70 divided by 7, it will be 10. In 10 years' time, this country will be producing 2 trillions of their real GDP. That's the rate of change in GDP is a factor that is called rule of 70s. We call that one. Fluctuation is determinants of the course of business cycle. Why do boom recession persist? Because of time lag. bandwagon effect, real business cycle fluctuations. Oh, this is the last slide, right? Okay. Fluctuation in aggregate supply, new classical theories, aggregate supply changes. So this one is there, look, aggregate supply is in here, longer aggregate supply. These one will fluctuate, these one will change. Like I said, when they will find a new source of resources, their longer aggregate supply will be changing too. Okay. And we will talk about this topic again a little bit more further in next future classes as well. Okay. All right, let's do our attendance first. Dropbox.
Sorry, sir. What was the alternate to the recessionary gap on those graphs just there?
Sorry?
What was the other graph? You had the recessionary gap. Oh, yeah, that one. Inflationary. Thank you.
Okay, here. Is Eman Abdullah here?
Here.
Thank you. Why I don't see this one? Yes. Next. Omar Ahmed.
Yeah, sir, I'm here.
Thank you very much. Jonathan Chan.
Yes, sir.
Jonathan is done. Thi Hui Duan.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Nicola Donilan. Nicola? No. Syed Giliani. No. Hai Hua Huang.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Anayatullah Husseini. Anayatullah Husseini. No. Riley Campbell.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Riley. Brianna Kha.
Yeah.
Thank you. Ihan Lee.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Jaden. Jaden never turned up actually. Mary Ann.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Mary Ann. This is Mai Tu V Nguyen. Mai? No. Hugo Parsons.
Yep.
Thank you, Hugo. Jianao Chin. Jianao Chin. No. Jeremy Chanel.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Murad Salim. Murad. No. This is John Travas.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, John. Aaron Wu. Aaron? No. Ji Zheng Jack Chai. Ji Zheng Jackie? No. Zheng Xing Zhu.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Zheng Xing. Mohammad Mahendra.
Yeah, I'm here.
Thank you very much. I think that's all.
Yeah, so I think that's week 9.
Yes.
Isn't
Yes.
it week 10? Sorry.
10. Yeah. 9 was last week.
Yeah,
Which-
we did not have a class. That's why I'm doing it this way.
Okay.
I think I should do this. I can actually copy it and put in that other way. That's fine. Yeah, you're right.
That's where it is.
Let's put it that way. So good. I can actually take it to this. Yes, that's fine. Actually, let me copy and delete. That would be better idea. The format will be gone. Okay, they should be. They are supposed to be. Okay, they are supposed to be actually blank. Okay, let's take it all together then. That's it. That's fine now. Yeah, it's all good.
Sorry, sir. So for the assignment, do we need a cover sheet?
I don't mind. If you give, you give. You don't, I don't mind actually.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Anything else I can help you guys? Any other questions? Anything else? Any queries? Okay. All right. If you have done with everything, I would like to close the meeting now then. Okay. Thank you very much for coming in. If you have any more questions, you can ask me. I'm happy to answer. And if you have no more questions, I would like to call it off then.
Thank you, sir. Have a nice day.
You too. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Okay. Zhu Jiangxing, do you have anything to ask me? Zhu Jiangxin.